Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. Let me quickly introduce the side event, and I'll give over to Don to say some words of welcome and other things that he would want to bring to our attention. Just to mention that the side event, as you know, is on the ICA. Would have presentations from the Secretariat providing, I'll say, a quick overview of the or update of the technical analysis the Secretariat supports, but also the CG training material that it has developed for the ICA process, and also give you an update of what we saw as the first and historic event of the FSV, which we did last Friday and Saturday. And following that, we would have two presentations from two countries, Uruguay and Vietnam, to share their experiences with us in terms of how they find going through the ICA, in particular the technical analysis for their countries. Let me bring to your attention that we have created a Twitter account. I don't know whether it's already on the web. Can you show that if it's possible? Otherwise, you can do that through UNFCCC _CC studio, which will be a Twitter account. We can put it up later on. If you have any questions related to the ICA process, you can send it through that. The Twitter account will also be found in the description of the broadcast video of this side event, which will also be available on the YouTube. So there are many channels of communication that we use these days to reach our distinguished audience. Without further ado, I would want to give the floor to Don. Don, please.
Thank you very much. We always make the assumption that you know who the heck Don is and why he's even taking up your valuable time this afternoon, especially since you could have been having a free lunch with Jeff or the Green Climate Fund people, the ones who actually have the money. I'm the coordinator in the Secretariat who is responsible for mitigation, data, and analysis, commonly called the MDA. So all of these activities of the MRV fall to me to be responsible whenever they go wrong. And since this week, nobody has called for my head, and my head is smiling. Because my head is smiling, I also have to offer a huge congratulations, in case nobody has told you yet. The MRV process for multilateral assessment was extraordinarily successful. And the question came up, would that also be the case when we came to FSV? And lo and behold, the first sessions of the facilitated sharing of views during the course of these SP sessions was amazing. The level of competence within the non-Annex 1 parties to not only produce their BURs, address questions that were raised, but to be able to articulately present it and answer off-the-cuff questions from the entire world, basically, was amazing to watch. The compliments that went to the non-Annex 1 parties, especially from the Annex 1 parties, was something that caused us to smile. During the process of the last year and a bit, when we have been working with the team of technical experts and with parties who were preparing their BURs for submission, there was hesitancy and nervousness and a little bit of fear about the whole process, and especially about how the country will present itself when it addressed the rest of the world. And what it turned out to be was those countries were making themselves proud. If one thing the press back home in each of your countries should pick up, it is the extraordinary amount of capability that exists within the non-Annex I parties to address these issues, and how the entire process of ICA is really about putting those countries in the limelight, highlighting the areas where your expertise exists, where you are willing as a country to enter into partnerships, and where you are seeking support. Because you already have covered the technical aspects. So the event really is used to promote what it is that the country wants to achieve under the convention, under the Paris Agreement, and going forward. And I think we should drop the 2020 because nobody really is paying attention to 2020. Things started happening as of last year. And so it is a huge congratulations that we offer to the parties. And we are already beginning to see more of the non-Annex I parties taking that first step to be a part of the facilitative sharing of views in Morocco at the COP in Marrakesh. They are making the submissions of their biennial update reports. During the course of the SBs, we received 2 additional ones based on the excellent performance of the non-Annex I parties during the course of this week. We will be engaging with the GULAC region over the next 4 weeks especially, as we have done already with Asia, the Pacific, Central and Eastern Europe, and Africa, to see how we can assist and encourage parties to submit their BURs as the first step in entering into the wonderful world of facilitative sharing of views and your presentation of national positions at the COP in Morocco. It is a golden opportunity, and we're really pleased at the way in which the non-Annex I parties have taken advantage of it. We have also seen that the process really is facilitative. Indeed, if there is a need for support, this is an excellent opportunity to make the request for it, because there are lots of agencies, even bilateral arrangements between parties to offer that assistance and support. And the way in which that support has come has really been to promote national development of capacity, and also for that capacity to be utilized in an array of other areas. For example, in the national communications, and also for the NDCs, nationally determined contributions. We have also been noticing a strong trend amongst non-Annex I parties to stop looking at each of these individual things as single events. So the biennial update report or the ICA process is not independent of the nationally determined contributions or the NDCs, which is not independent of the national communications. They're all really one package with several outputs that come from the package. And we have seen a number of countries bundling their JEF support to be much more significant in their ability to deal with them and build capacity over a longer period of time. We have seen some surprising add-on benefits that have come from that. These include ability to be much more informed and participate greatly in the negotiation processes here in the SBs and in the COP itself. There is no size, economic development, or regional process that makes for a good negotiator within our convention. If you look at the countries who are providing experts for informal groups, contact groups, chairs of subsidiary bodies, they are from everywhere, which means that the building up of capability is happening across the entire world. And this is probably one of those reasons why the level of discussion in Paris was able to come up with such a broad and comprehensive agreement in the Paris Agreement. I'd like to leave you with one plea. As we increase the number of BURs that will lead to the completion of the ICA process with facilitated sharing of views over the next several years, we're going to need more and more technical experts who will be doing the reviews of these submitted BURs. So all of you who have extraordinary capability, we encourage you to work with the Secretariat to become registered experts, to work with the CGE, so that we can expand the expertise that has been certified to more than 1 or 2 or 3 areas. Those of you who are working with greenhouse gas inventories as experts, or who are working with the multilateral assessment process as experts, to also join in the ICA process so that we expand the number of experts. Those of you who speak Spanish and French and Russian and all the rest of them, we also need you because we receive BURs in French and Spanish. We haven't received any in Russian yet, have we?
Not yet. Not Chinese.
Yeah, so, but we expect them to come and they have to be reviewed. So we are greatly encouraging you to come forward so that we can put you through the training process, which many of you will breeze through, and gain the certification to join that elite group of technical experts who facilitate the ICA process. I'm not going to take up any more of your valuable time, but just to reiterate what I started with, congratulations. It was really quite a blessing and amazing to watch the process unfold during the course of the past week. So I wish you well, and we look forward to overflowing number of parties participating in the FSV, the culmination of the ICA process at the COP in Marrakesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don, for that statement. Now we move on, colleagues, to the next item on agenda, this presentation by the Secretariat. And I'm pleased to invite Amma to come to the podium, or Sidat is doing the first? Oh, okay, so then you gave me the wrong order. So Sidat will do the first presentation and then Amma will come up later. Sidat?
Thank you, Don. This is the implementation update from the Secretariat for the ICA. To set you the context, we're going through the context of the ICA, the training of the team of technical experts, and as William has said, even the technical analysis as well as the FSV. To set the context, the ICA, as you all know, at COP16 in 2010, that the parties decided to conduct the ICA of the biennial update reports which were submitted from the developing country parties. And it was decided to implement it under the SBI. This whole process aims to increase the transparency of the mitigation actions and their effects. And it basically broadly involves 2 steps. One is the technical analysis of the BUR by a team of technical experts, and the facilitative sharing of views, which the first ever session of which was recently concluded. To give you a slightly slight background on the decisions, I would like to just point out the important ones being the 2 CP17, where the modalities and guidelines for the ICA were decided by the parties, and the other major decision or important decision for the process was the 20 CP19, where the composition, modalities and procedures of the team of technical experts conducting the technical analysis was also decided. So I would just move on to the CG training program, which has been going on since early 2014. It basically involves modules that the experts need to complete, and the number of modules and types of modules depends on their personal interest and the ones that they have been nominated by their national focal points to the roster of experts, and specifically based on their experience levels in involvement with other UNFCCC process, either having taken part in training programs or having conducted Annex 1 reviews. It would be an added advantage, and they don't need to do few modules. But more information is again available on the ICA website, and we'll be happy to share that. In 2015 and 2016, we have conducted around 3 rounds of training programs. The recent one, the 3rd round, has recently concluded. And there's one more training program which is starting in July. The essential difference being that while the first few training programs were more hard copies, we have upgraded the training program, and this is now available online. And this is a self-learning process, or a self-learning training program. You have the convenience to pick and choose the date and time in which you can pace yourself, how you deal with the training program as well. And the idea behind it again is to punctuate the training programs with the technical analysis sessions that are going to take place. The next round is taking place in June, and my colleague Alma will give you more update on the technical analysis. And to give you a statistics of how many experts have been as of now trained, as you would see that as of now, these are the registered experts, and based on the categorization of experience and less experience, as I earlier mentioned, we have about 152 experts who have qualified in this training program. And again, since the biennial update reports cover different focus areas, technical areas, these are the principal areas in which these experts are distributed. And again, as you can see, the Annex 1 experts, we have about 67 to choose from, and non-Annex 1 about 85. This plays a very critical role in composing the team of technical experts, because we have to adhere to quite a few guidelines on the composition of the TT. We need to maintain the regional balance. We need to make sure that the team can handle the language, and it's usually co-led by 2 experts who are, again, one from the Annex 1 and one from non-Annex 1. The most important thing being that the upcoming training program is starting on 15th of July, and the registrations are open until 9th. And again, this information will again be made available. I request Alma to join me.
Okay, thank you very much, Siddharth. So Alma would also be presenting on the technical analysis. So Alma, you have the floor. Yes?
Okay. Okay, so as you are aware that the ICA process involves the 2 steps, the technical analysis and the FSV. So as William has indicated, I'll just take you through a brief recap of our technical analysis phase thus far. So just to remind you of what this technical analysis involved, and the technical analysis is conducted by a team of technical experts. And these technical experts, the team is composed based on the criteria outlined in the decision. And the 3 main activities that this technical team of experts does during the technical analysis is also based on the decision. and it involves 3 elements: identifying the extent of the information in the BUR, undertaking the technical analysis, and the third component is identifying the capacity building needs, which is done in consultation with the parties. So we have conducted, the Secretariat has conducted 4 rounds of technical analysis. We had in May last year, in August 2015, November, and recently in February. The first round, we had 11 BURs. The countries are listed here for further information. This presentation will be uploaded, where we had 4 teams, English, French, and Spanish, again, to cover those languages in which the BURs were submitted. The second round, we had 2 BURs, English teams, and again, the third one, we had just an English team. The fourth round, we also had a Spanish and English team. So these parties have all gone through the technical analysis phase. Regarding the status of those summary reports, for those conducted last year, we just have 1 which is ongoing, but the others have been published. It's listed here again. The 4th round, which we had in February, again, it's ongoing. The reports have been drafted by the TTE, and I think 30th May, they will be handed over to the parties again for that review and comment phase. So for 2016, just to tell you that we, again, as I mentioned, we had 1 phase in February. And for each of these technical analysis rounds, there's a submission timeline for the BURs. So at that cutoff point, these BURs go into the technical analysis phase. So we have again 1 for June, another in September, and in December. In June, we have 7 BURs that are going to undergo the technical analysis. And for September, thus far, our cutoff point is 20th June, but we have already received 5. And again, based on the need, we have another phase in December. So after that technical analysis phase, those parties, the summary report is the final product that leads into the facilitative sharing of views, which my colleague Karen will provide in detail.
Thank you, Alma. Well, I'll provide an update on the workshop of facilitative sharing of views. Well, as Don mentioned it, last week we had the first one, and those parties that underwent the facilitative sharing of views completed the whole ICA cycle. So as explained by Alma, this is the second step of the ICA process. Basically is a workshop under SBI, and after that, a record of this facilitative sharing of view will be the outcome of the process. I would like also to show you what are the paragraphs of the modalities and guidelines for the facilitative sharing of views, which basically outline what are the mandate for this process. So basically is the SBI chair, the SBI, sorry, shall convene a workshop for the facilitative sharing of views, open to all parties, for those parties that submit as BOR and also have a summary report as an outcome of the technical analysis. All parties are allowed to submit written questions in advance, and the facilitative sharing of views organized for parties of group of parties. And this workshop will consist basically in a presentation for each party, and after that, a question and answer session for each party. And as I mentioned, well, basically the outcome is a summary report of the technical analysis and the record of the facilitated sharing of views. This is the whole outcome of the ICA process. For the first workshop, we had 13 parties that underwent the FSB. It was conducted on the 20 and 21st May, last Friday and Saturday, where all parties undergoing the process presented what actions are taking to mitigate emissions, and also highlighting all those associated challenges and gaps that they encounter while providing this information. And also to provide additional information and an overview on the international support received and needed during the process. The workshop was organized, of course, based on the decisions and the mandate. So the chair of the SBI was the chair for the workshop. Every party had approximately 35 minutes for their presentation, and also the session of question and answer. This is around, I mean, the total, but we saw cases that, of course, they need to provide additional information, and then even took a little bit more of time. But it was, the idea was to give with this time not too limited parties to provide a transparent explanation of what they were asked, and also about the things they wanted to report to other parties. It was also open to parties and observers, but of course only parties were allowed to submit questions prior to and during the workshop. And basically during the presentation, most of the countries expressed the need for continued international support in helping them to improve their national system for MRV, amongst other topics. Of course, also the parties share their challenge encountered during the BUR preparation, and also those challenges and constraints that they face during the ICA process, meaning during the technical analysis and also during the FSB or prior to the FSB. I wanted to include this slide because I think it was really, really good experience to see this exchange of exchange of views, as the word is named, but it was really interesting to see that the parties not only provide information on the challenges and constraints they found during the preparation of the BUR, but also what are the lessons learned from this preparation and also from their participation in the ICA process. Of course, I try to compile many of the issues that were somehow expressed commonly among different parties, and try to list not in priority, but those that in several interventions the parties mentioned. So one of the main challenge, it was the lack of coordination and definition of roles, as well as collaboration among relevant institutions. So it means that they found the need to strengthen the institutional arrangements in the country. And also one of the challenge and constraints was the short period of time for the preparation of the report. So this is really important because countries need to be aware about this timeline, because they need to submit the BUR every 2 years. So it's important to have this here somehow to see how this could be addressed, how the international, national and international support can help to meet all these deadlines. And another challenge that also was commonly expressed was the capacity constraints, basically human and financial resources for the support of the preparation of the BURs. Well, I don't want to go to every of these item listed here, because also we want to give opportunity to the countries to express on their experience participating in this process. But I would like to mention what are the lessons learned and positive comments that we heard last week. Basically that the ICA, I really like one of these comments, that the ICA was really a positive process for helping developing countries to improve the future reporting and identify country needs. So this is really relevant to hear from the parties undergoing the process, because it can also encourage other parties that haven't submitted the BOR to do so, because of course they can encounter these challenges, but there are also other ways while exchanging information and how these challenges can be overcome. And of course, this in the end is for the benefit of the parties to improve the transparency of the reporting in the subsequent submission of the BOR. And the next round of FSB will be in COP 22nd in Marrakesh. So, and also we are, as a part of the records of the FSB, the webcasts and the presentations are available. Later we can share the link where this information is available. It's basically in the Secretariat website. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Let me inform participants that would have period for question and answers. So if you can note down your questions or concerns, comments you want to make, we'll come back to that. I want to give the floor quickly to our colleague from Uruguay, Ms. Mariana Kapasik, to make a presentation on their experience in the technical analysis and the lessons that they've learned. Mariana.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much to the Secretariat for organizing this side event and for inviting Uruguay to present our experience. I'm sorry I wasn't able to prepare a PowerPoint presentation, but the idea is to tell you our experience during this technical analysis of our first BUR. First, I would like to tell you some background information regarding the preparation of our BUR. The resources for the preparation of Uruguay's first BUR were approved by the JEF Secretariat on December 2012. And then the document for its elaboration was approved by UNDP as the implementing agency in June 2013. And our BUR was submitted to the Secretariat on December 2015. And thus, we were included in the fourth round of technical analysis. The week of the technical analysis was between February 29th and March 4th of this year. And now the TTE is completing the draft summer report, and it will be shared with us by end of May. The BUR was prepared by the Ministry of Environment that is the UNFCCC focal point. And the work was carried out in the framework of the National System to Respond to Climate Change, that is an interinstitutional body chaired by the Ministry of Environment, and which includes other ministries, the Bureau of Planning and Budget, the National Emergency System, the subnational governments, and the National System to Respond to emergencies. Now, I will focus on the experience and some lessons so far from our participation. First, it was a very new process, the technical analysis, and really we had some uncertainties about it. But with the Secretariat's support, we believe it has really worked very well so far. Following immediately after the submission of the BUR, a communication from the Secretariat was received, providing relevant information on the process. Then the composition of the TTE, who conducted the technical analysis, was communicated to us. Also, the dates, the time frames, and the activities for the different phases of interaction with the TTE to facilitate the analysis were coordinated well in advance. And this information enabled us to organize our work. And, for example, we saved the technical analysis week. We blocked it in order that the team was able to attend it. We also found flexibility in the modalities for communication with the TTE to share the preliminary findings. We chose to have a teleconference on that stage, but other modes were available. And finally, all our questions regarding the process were clarified by the Secretariat. So after the interaction with the Secretariat, this preliminary interaction, we had a clear picture of the process ahead and a clear schedule of the activities that allowed us to prepare properly for this phase of the ICA. It was very positive that the technical analysis process started very soon after our submission of the BUR, so that the national team of experts that participated in the preparation, our experts that participate there, was still available to participate in the process. And by the process, I mean the feedback on the technical clarifications requested by the TTE, the teleconference with the TTE, when we share the preliminary findings in terms of capacity building needs, and then the prioritization of such preliminary findings. The process was also timely in the sense that we were starting to elaborate the project proposal to request funds to the GEF for our second BUR. And in that sense, we were able to include some of the preliminary findings of this technical analysis process in the proposal. Then also related to the time of all the process, just to comment that resources were approved for the second BUR, resources from the GEF. So we are starting to prepare the second BUR in the following month. And being the gap between the submission and the new initiation for the elaboration of the second BUR, we only for 5 months, we are going to be able to retain the team of national experts from the first to the second Bureau, being that a very positive aspect. It was very significant that all the members of the TTE, as stated by the guidelines, that conducted the analysis spoke Spanish, our mother tongue, and this increased the understanding between the TTE and our team. The process has been very interactive in nature. And as I said before, the different steps, the technical clarifications were requested by the TTE, or feedback was provided to them. Then a set of capacity building needs were proposed by the TTE based on the analysis. They were discussed during the teleconference and further prioritized and modified by us. This interactive nature was very helpful to clarify certain aspects and information contained in the BUR, which we thought they were clear enough, but we have understood that they were not so clear. So as a result of this interaction, the treatment of such aspects will be improved in our next BUR. Well, now we are looking forward to receive the draft summary report from the TTE to give our feedback on it as well. And we, of course, are excited to engage in the FASB within the following years. I don't know if in Marrakesh or maybe next May in Bonn. Yes? Okay, we'll see. And then to finalize, I would like to share 3 different examples of findings and needs identified during this process and how we are dealing with them in the framework of this analysis. The first example is regarding the greenhouse gas inventory. In this first example, the TTE noted that the estimates of the GHG emissions from certain categories of LULUCF were not provided, and that what we attribute this to a lack of information. And based on this finding, the TTE asked if we could indicate the type of challenge experienced for collecting data and identify unassociated capacity building needs. We indicated that it is that the challenge is related to the lack of enough data, system, and experience to consistently represent land use LULUCF in the 6 categories defined by the IPCC for the inventory. And that we also lack data in terms of emission factors on soil organic carbon stock in land converted to croplands and croplands converted to grasslands. And then we identify as a capacity building needs the training of the team that is participating in the preparation of our inventories on tools to represent these land use and land use changes categories, and also identify the need to research on soil organic carbon stock in land converted to croplands and croplands converted to grasslands. The second example and the third one are related to constraints and gaps and related financial, technical, and capacity needs, including support needed and received. In the second one, the TT noted that our BUR provided information on gaps and needs. And they also proposed us a capacity building need to identify a methodology to compile and report information, constraints, gaps, and needs. We accepted this proposal. And we rate it as a high priority need, and it will be included in the activities to prepare our second BUR. The third and final example I am sharing is the one that the TT noted that the BUR provides information on support received, particularly on financial support. But the information didn't include detailed information on the amount of funding received. The question on this issue by the TTE was if Uruguay has experienced any challenge in reporting the amount of funds received, and if so, if there are capacity building needs to overcome this challenge. Our answer to this finding and this question was that we didn't provide the detailed information on the support received due to lack of clarity and methodology in the reporting guidelines of the BUR. Further to these examples, based on the interaction with the TTE, we have identified some actions that we are going to take along. We are planning to extend the training on greenhouse gas inventories, the training from the Secretariat to the whole team involved in the inventory preparation. And we also believe that the CG training materials and workshops on inventories and BURs were very useful and important to build capacity of the team involved in its preparation. And we will continue participating in the regional workshops. June does the LAC workshop. And we are revisiting the training materials on their updates. Just to finalize, I will say that we truly believe that this is a very helpful tool, the technical analysis and the ICA, that will continue to support our countries in developing improved BURs and identifying areas to enhance transparency and clarity on action and support. And that we are also confident that the ICA is a very important tool for the work of the APA, the work that the APA is undertaking on transparency, and in particular regarding the modalities, procedures, and guidelines for transparency framework for action that should be built and draw from experiences from existing arrangements related to transparency under the convention. And in our view, the ICA is an example, a very successful example of this. Okay, thank you and very much.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for that excellent presentation. Even though you didn't prepare the PowerPoint, I think what is important is information that you provided, which is very succinct, and that will allow us, certainly the Secretariat, and for that matter, also the participants, to get some insights into what Uruguay did and what benefits the whole process has been to you. In particular, as you already said, you've taken up some of the recommendations in the revision of your next BUR, at least the proposal to Jeff for that. Thank you very much. We will now move on to Ms. Yan Phen from Vietnam to also share Vietnam's experience in the technical analysis of the first BUR. They've already undergone the FSV, so certainly have completed the whole cycle. Yes, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, William, and thank you, colleagues, for coming and during the ICA event. William mentioned, Vietnam is one of the first countries submitting our first BUR, and we actually had a chance to join the FSV, and I actually present on our challenges and lesson learned from the whole process, from BUR preparation until technical analysis process. Maybe my presentation is a little bit repetition of the presentation that I had on Saturday. But today I rather focus on the experience on the TA the technical analysis process rather than the BUR and preparation. So our first BUR was submitted in 2014. We were considered to receive the funds from JEF via UNEF, but the process maybe is a bit long, and our procedures, our governmental procedures maybe didn't match UNEP and JEF procedures. So we actually couldn't receive the funds to submit on time. So our government have a decision to give some funds for the BUR to be completed by 2014. But actually the funds came 6 months before our submission. So we actually have only 6 months for that. But like I mentioned before, we have the GHG inventory results from the project from Japan, from JICA, Japan government. So we have the results already. So we only put on the mitigation actions and other informations on the BUR. So yeah, like our secretariat mentioned about the technical analysis under the ICA process. We have three phases of interaction between the team of the technical team of expert and the party under the technical process, including the written exchange in video or teleconference. And in our case, we use the video conference via Skype with TTE. The preparatory phase actually started about 1 week before the technical analysis, and we received 2 rounds of questions. The first round was 1 week before the TA, but the second round was only 1 day before the video conference. So the time for preparation is a little bit limited. We think that this phase have to provide clearer technical explanation and update, and we actually had a chance to provide more updates on our activities that were not mentioned in the BUR. For example, the status and timeline for implementation of national greenhouse gas inventory system and MRV system. Those things that were not provided in the BUR, and the TTE wanted us to update about that. And for mitigation actions, we actually didn't mention the mitigation goals. So the TTE also asked us to provide more information on that to give them an overview idea of how each mitigation we reported contribute to achieving those goals. One thing we learned from this session is this, we need to be well prepared for the process. So the relevant data and documents need to be in hand. For example, the TTE wants us to provide the information on historical and projected data for BAU projections. So they could check how we develop the BAU scenarios in our BUR, because we have limited information on that. So we have to provide more, explanation on that. We think that we need to prepare answers at not only explicit but also early, so that we have a chance to discuss during the video conference. But actually the video conference focused much on the capacity building needs. So we think that it's better to have more experts involved to review the capacity building needs that were identified by the TTE in consultation with us. The challenges we encounter during the preparatory phase maybe is the availability of experts. Not everyone could be available at short notice, so they need to be well informed in advance. But furthermore, we think that we need to have something binding them, for example, into contracts right before BUR preparation, so that when the BUR was submitted, you still have them there to support you for the technical analysis. And we also think that the coordination between the relevant institutions and the independent consultants need to be strengthened, because it could help not only for BUR preparation, but also for the analysis. And one feedback we want to propose for the Secretariat, maybe you need to have us to set up an appropriate time frame for technical questions. We think that technical questions should be delivered early so that we have sufficient time for preparation. Yeah. So for the technical analysis week, we actually have a Skype conference with TTE, but the contact person of Vietnam at that time is in the UK. So we actually cannot have all the relevant experts into the video conference. And we know that the main goal of the video conference is to discuss the findings on capacity building needs during the analysis of BUR. And this was mainly to address the gaps in terms of complete needs and transparency noted by the TTE. And one of the challenges is the contact person who is the main person to join the video conference was not competent in all fields, technical and policy questions. So we think that more time for preparation is required, so that that person can come up with the questions that were sent before. And when some gaps were identified but the capacity needs were not reflected, we think that it's better to try to communicate, because it's the best way to present your actual needs. And again, participation of all relevant experts into the process is very important. Specifically, you need to engage the team of experts who provided key inputs for the BUR preparations into the video conference. So you have a chance to discuss about technical things and to further discuss about the capacity building needs. About the summary report is prepared by the TTE after the video conference in consultation with us, and we have maximum 3 months for review and comments and 3 months for finalization. But we think that we were both TTE and we were in before the schedule. So I think we have the summary report maybe 4 months after the technical analysis week. We think that during the summary report preparation, the party should provide the feedback and the questions to the TTE right when they arise. So you have more chance to discuss again and again, and then you can reflect it in the summary report. So you don't need to wait for the TTE to produce the draft of the summary report, but you need to send them any question or clarifications during the process. And again, the engagement of the national team of experts into that is very important. But we think that maybe you need to think about something more effective, like contracts. When you started preparing the BUR, or maybe you need to send any official documents before the process to ask them to cooperate with you and to provide technical support. We actually didn't. So when we send the relevant expert who work in relevant ministry, we receive not sufficient answers to the questions. And the same is happened with the summary report. We send them the summary report, but not so many comments we received from them. So we think that maybe a contract or a document requesting for technical support. It's very important for the process. And I think the understanding on the ICA process, as well the BUR preparation of the institutions involved, still limited. So maybe for the BUR preparation, apart from the workshops for that, you need to integrate the ICA contents in domestic trainings so that they can understand not only the role of BUR, but also the role of technical analysis of the BUR after submission. So the challenges in ICA process, like I mentioned, is the limited understanding of the role of the ICA process. So after BUR was completed, the experts were reluctant to answer swiftly. And we know that the technical analysis week is an intensive process. So we think the time for preparation is still limited, and especially when dealing with technical questions. So also the engagement of the team of experts who provided key inputs to the BUR into the process is not an easy task, because they cannot be available at short notice, and at that time maybe they are committed to the other work, and also they need time to consult among their colleagues or within their institutions. So providing the answer for the technical questions is not always the case. And also when looking at historical data as reported in maybe previous report, maybe you need to think about rechecking or recalculation, but it cannot be done within the limited time frame of technical analysis. And maybe another challenge is the access to historical data is challenge. It's challenged because the database system has not been completed, especially for the historical data. And again, the technical capacity and coordination between the institutions and independent consultants involved in the BUR preparation and its analysis is something that need to be improved. So something we learned from this process is to not only have the institution and consultants involved bow into the process from BUR preparation until completing the whole ICA process. But also we need to think about a system that is institutionalized, like GG inventory system or MRV system. This can be how to facilitate the commitment to the work of reporting and analysis. So apart from the technical capacity needs identified during the technical analysis, some further needs for improvement that we identify here. Maybe it's not only for ICA process, but also for BUR preparation. Is like I mentioned, to strengthen this institutional arrangement for BUR preparation and ICA process, because we need something sustainable, and we need to not only to engage the team of experts into the process, but also to maintain the expertise and the knowledge within the institutions involved. Because at the end of the day, we rather to improve our capacity rather on depend on the external consultants. We also need to have capacity building activities, including the in-country trainings for BUR and ICA preparation, like I mentioned. So we have more wide participation of relevant institutions and stakeholders in BUR development. And we also have a chance to raise their awareness on the road of BUR and the purpose of the ICA process. And our colleague from Uruguay just mentioned about the funding for BUR analysis. I think this point is very important because first we just think about timely and sustainable financial support for BUR preparation, but now we also need to think about funding for the ICA process as well. I'm not sure which is the best way to integrate this issue. Maybe we need to think about the initial fund, right, when we prepare the BUR, so that we have more funds after 6 months of submission of BUR for analysis the BUR. And again, we have in our country we have started development of the MRV system, and we plan to have this system to be operated by 2020. But I think to build up and strengthen this system, it's very important to facilitate strengthening the transparency and accuracy of reporting. I think I finished. If I have any feedback and comments and maybe experience from the other parties, please let me know. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Yan Phim. I will now open the floor to participants. If you have any questions to the presenters, and I recognize a lady there. Can you give her the mic, please? Who's holding the box? Yes. Just throw it and she'll catch it. Okay.
Thank you. And Tian from China. And first, a question for two ladies is, could you please share more experiences in your institutional arrangement while preparing BUR and how it's related in the ICA process? Like when you have experts or government officials preparing the BUR, how could you involve them lively in the later process, like the communication with TTE and also the FSV process? And another question for the Secretariat is, I've noticed that the FSV format is a little bit slightly different from the mandate. Recalling the mandate, it's FSV will be conducted in a country or a group of countries, and it's at most 3 hours. And here we have 35 minutes for each party to present, which I think is quite helpful. But is this format gonna be a replica for the future sessions, or how any flexibilities will be given to parties if they still want to be sharing experiences within a group with other countries? Thank you.
Can we take additional questions if there are any comments? Yes.
Here.
Thank you. I'm Rihab from Sudan. I have a question for the Secretariat. For those experts who had successfully passed the exams that conducted by the Secretariat, and then they became a certified reviewer, is it necessary or mandatory to take again all the 5 modules to become part of the technical team of experts? Because as far as I know, the 2 review processes are not differ from each other so much, except for certain specific areas. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Otherwise, we'll respond to this first round and we can come back later. So who would want to start? Mariana? Sure. Please. Thank you.
Okay. The arrangements for the BUR and for the NatComs in Uruguay are, as I said in the beginning, the reports are prepared by the Ministry of Environment, but within an interinstitutional body comprising different ministries. And the responsibility is of the government as a whole. And we count with expert consultants hired for some specific tasks, but the whole process and the overview is led by the government, by persons that work for the government. And as our the first BUR and the second one, we tried to connect them to that. To say that the gap between the first one and the second one was minimized, so as the experts that were contracted, we could retain them, so that would facilitate the process. But the important thing is that the government oversees all the process, and we have institutionalized, as my colleagues said, the inventory, for example, is something that is institutionalized. The different sectoral ministries, they are responsible for the inventory, the sectoral inventory, and that is very good, because we don't have to hire external persons each time. But some specific tasks, for example, if we want to develop an emission factor, well, that we have to hire additional resources. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Yanfam.
So about institutionalized for BUR, from BUR preparation to ICA process. Actually, we have institutional setup for previous national communication, and we just apply it for the BUR development. But having said that, this system is not mandatory for us at the moment. But we have the GHG inventory system that was established last year, but after the BUR, the first BUR completion. So we are thinking about how to institutionalize the BUR system, the system for both BURs and NATCOM, and I'm sure that system should include the ICA process as well. And I think this system is mainly focused on the GHG inventory system as well, because the ministry who are involved in GHG inventory are also responsible for reporting mitigation actions. So I think we have a link from the GHG inventory systems to BUR system, but at the moment it's just the first stage. So our plan is just finish the system for BUR and now coming up with the MRV system. And after the FSB workshop, we have more experience and inputs from the other party and the secretariat. So we come back home and then can start to think about the system for the second BUR in the next national communication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to respond to the question from our colleague from China, we'll come to for a second round, but let's finish the responses. On the organization of the FSV in terms of timing, just to inform you that we had, or the SBI chair, I would say, had a consultation with parties in terms of how we're going to schedule the whole FSV at this session. And therefore, based on that experience or based on that discussion, we said, okay, roughly about 35 minutes could be appropriate for each party, 15 minutes for presentation and 20 minutes for question and answers. We tried that, and I think we learned a lot of lessons in terms of the timing that is required by the parties. After the FSV, we did a quick analysis, and we see on average, each party used 38 minutes. So we're not completely off in terms of 35 minutes allocation. But that said, we also learned that a few number of parties needed more than that. For example, Brazil went up to 58 minutes, which was understandable. It could even go beyond that. And other countries, Ghana and I think Tunisia also went as far as 45 and another minutes. So there were some countries that needed more time. And I think with that lesson learned, we'll see how we organize the subsequent FSVs to allow countries that would need that type of time to have it. Because the decision says 1 to 3 hours. But it's also very important that parties bear in mind that that is also going to affect the time of the SBI. Because if we're going to give 13 countries, for example, every country an hour of presentation, then you could imagine we have to do that over 3 days. So it's important to give enough time, but we also have to be conscious of the amount of time required. That said, I think one important thing that I would add, which hasn't come up, but I think maybe Vietnam made a short comment on that, is the timing that was given to the countries to respond to questions, not during the session, but before the session. And that's something that we have learned that we need to also look at, so that this will give enough time to the countries to respond to written questions. So we're not going to have written questions a day before the FSV. Certainly we'll try to make sure at least a couple of weeks or a month, if possible, to allow countries to then respond to these written questions. I'll leave Sida to respond to the other question on certification that was raised by Sudan. Sida.
Thank you very much. So on the certification and the training, yeah, if an expert has already participated in other Annex 1 reviews or training programs, they are deemed that they have the relevant experience, and they don't need to go through all the clusters. So only one set of cluster 1, which specifically targets the ICA process, they need to undergo only that training. They don't need to do the other ones. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we can take a few more questions. I saw the colleague from India. So I'll take you first and then the gentleman in front of you. Please. Don't throw the box to him. Does somebody throw the box to him?
First of all, congratulations to both Uruguay and Vietnam for doing a wonderful job, and to the UNFCCC Secretariat for organizing a very meaningful workshop, which is very beneficial for us to know as to what the process is all about. Two quick comments, not questions. For both the countries, what was the percentage of tier 3 in your inventory that you used? Because riding the tier ladder is the most difficult thing, and it's also costly because you need to have your own coefficients and so on. And what was the general extrapolation that was done? That is just one question. The other is more out of curiosity, because we have also submitted our BUR, and I think that now the second BURs are going to be due very soon. So sometimes I'm not sure whether the process will overtake us or we would be in accordance with the process, because second BURs would need to be submitted by the end of this year, and the TTE and the other process would need to then be viewed in that backdrop. As the dates are approaching fast. These are the two general observations.
Okay, thank you very much. India, yes, please. You need a box? You don't have big voice?
Cannot do it.
Hi there, thanks. Greg Briner from the OECD. I just have two quick questions. The first is for the parties who underwent ICA. Did you find that any parts of the BUR reporting guidelines are unclear? And if so, which parts would you find it useful to have more clarity? And the second question is, do you have a preference for in-country technical analysis or desk-based, or did the Skype kind of hybrid work just fine as well? Thanks.
And a question to the Secretariat. Do you know already how many countries will be ICA going through the FSV in Marrakesh?
Okay, so we want to start on the question from India. Yeah, go ahead.
the quick answer is 0% because we actually haven't touched the tier 3 in our first viewer. We still use the tier 1 and some tier 2, but in our next viewer, we will think about using more the tier 2, but for tier 3, it's very hard for us at the moment. Maybe the challenge is that our department, who is the coordinating body for BUR preparation, also encourage the institutions involved in GHG inventory system to apply the higher tier, but they claim that their capacity is limited and the data is not available. So even with the guidelines, they just want to use the 1996, not ready for the 2006. So they say that they need more training on that and to have a system to make it possible for higher tier methodology application and the guidelines of 2006. And the question about the difficulties in BUR reporting about the clarity of some elements. Yeah, we did encounter difficulties in reporting because when we submitted our first BUR, we have a training, I think 3 months before completion of our first BUR, but at the moment the draft of the first BUR was completed already. So after the training, we have more information on explanation of the reporting guidelines, but it's too late for us. And after completion of the BUR, the CG also organized a couple of trainings for us, but for the questions, for the guidelines, still not really clear. But for the second BUR, we will rely on the materials of the training. But I think there's a need to have clearer guidelines so that the parties, who cannot attend the training can, use the guidelines in a more effective way.
You want to respond to the other question, whether you prefer to have in-country analysis?
The country analysis. Sorry, I haven't get the second question.
Maybe I would ask. Yes, go ahead.
For us, it worked very, very well to have the technical analysis week with the TT in Bonn and the rest of our team in our country. The Skype call was good, and I don't think that the interaction would have been different if the team was in our country. So for us, it's okay this way.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariana. Karen, would you want to respond to the other questions also in terms of how many?
Regarding the question on how many countries are we expecting for the next FSB, the answer is 13. However, this is subjected to the completion of the summary report.
No, I mean, just to elaborate a little bit further on that before I take the last question from our colleague from India. February, we have already analyzed 6 countries, and then in June, we'll be doing additional 7. So hopefully these countries, which what Karen is referring to as 13, will be able to complete their summary report before November, in time for the COP. If they are able to do that, because that is the necessary requirement. If the summary report is completed, then they can join the next session of the FSV. We still have one outstanding report from the first, or one of the initial technical analysis, Macedonia, assuming Andorra, sorry. Assuming that is also finalized, then they could join. So we might have 14 countries doing that. Otherwise, it looks like we're having that magic number of 13 to be working with for now. Okay, so thank you very much. Let's pick the last question from our colleague from India, and then we can end the session.
I feel personally that there is a lot of capacity building need in terms of MRV process that you have in BUR and national communications. For example, now for a sector like forestry, you can track from satellite, you can have a proper national system. But for a global molecule like CO2, we would like to understand from our developed country colleagues, maybe if not here, then later on over a cup of coffee, how does one do the MRV for a global molecule like CO2? And how does one make a system by which you can perpetually do it year after year?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, which certainly the colleagues in the room might want to reflect on, or we can package that for IPCC to reflect on and come back with some response. But I don't think the participants here can respond to that question. So maybe your second proposal, having that discussion with coffee offline, might be the best approach. Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming. Just to inform you that tomorrow there will be another side event where additional 3 countries will also be presenting the lessons and experience they've also gathered from the BR preparation. And within that group, we also have, I would say, the support providers, in particular the GEF, and also the Global Support Program, which is both UNDP and UNEP. And again, UNEP DTU would be there to also make presentations in terms of support. So it will be very interesting for you to come around. Otherwise, thank you very much for the time here, and see you around.